let's start with the Lakers real quick before we get to other stuff. Andre Drummond is now a Los Angeles Laker. And I don't know how else to say this other than you could give Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge to the Nets. Andre Drummond is a bigger move than both those guys, chiefly because Drummond is actually going to play basketball. Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm not sure how big of factors they're going to be. They have some other players out there in Brooklyn on the front line who I think are more valuable than those two, but we'll get to them in a minute. The Andre Drummond move is just enormous. First of all, he's going to start from the jump. Marc Gasol got a Defensive Player of the Year award in the past. Real plus minus this season. Among all centers, he ranks 45th of 83. He's not really moving well at this advanced age. Really good passer, high IQ guy. Marc Gasol has not been very good for the Lakers this year. Enter Andre Drummond. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, he couldn't defend a chair. Come on, get out of here. Andre Drummond stinks. Andre Drummond, by the way, playing on an awful Cleveland team. 41st among centers in defensive real plus minus. So he hasn't been historically bad the way he usually is. I mean, Drummond really is not known for defense. However, currently, Dwight Howard is 63rd, JaVale McGee's 64th. I got to say, I've been impressed with Andre Drummond this year. Now, if you think back to the bubble, we know Anthony Davis don't like to play the 5. He just doesn't. He doesn't like to bang. He's a finesse guy. If you watched Evan Mobley of USC during this incredible Trojans run through the postseason, Evan Mobley has some Anthony Davis going on. Like, he's inside and he's rebounding. He don't want to bang inside. He's a thin guy. He can step out. He's a great passer. I like all that stuff from Anthony Davis. However, in the West, there are going to be instances where he's going to have to bang, or we're going to have to put Drummond on the floor. And I think against DeAndre Ayton, I think in moments against Rudy Gobert, and certainly Jokic. And listen, Drummond's not going to shut these guys down, but you need that big body. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to go big. I think Drummond is a great get for the Lakers. Let me just remind folks, on an awful Cleveland team, this guy was putting up 17 and 15 a night. He basically goes out there, gets every rebound, dunks everything, and he's shooting, 60%? No, I'm sorry, he's not 60. Holy cow, he's down to 47% from the field this year. Okay, that's bad. Andre Drummond needs to take better shots. Earlier in his career in Detroit, 60, 53, 52, 53, 55, better shooter. He's not getting easy shots when you're on a bad Cleveland team. Guess who's going to get a lot better looks, and his field goal percentage is going to go through the roof playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis? That would be Andre Drummond. So, Rob G, listen, I know you're obviously a massive Lakers fan. You're very excited for the move. I'm curious as to your thoughts on Andre Drummond to the Lakers.
I think it'll be a good fit. I mean, it gives them something that they don't have, which is a big guy who can, kind of play above the rim a little bit, which is what they do not have at all in Marc Gasol and Montrezl Harrell. It's interesting that with the Drummond move, though, we're going to get to LaMarcus Aldridge here in a minute, but I actually think that if the Lakers had signed Aldridge and the Nets have signed Drummond, that would have been better for each team. So I think
whoa, hold on. Andre Drummond would have been better on the Nets if the Lakers got LaMarcus Aldridge?
No, I think that each team would have been better with the other guy's buyout person that they got. And that's just because, with Andre Drummond, he's fine. He gives them something that they don't have, but when it's crunch time and it's in the playoffs and you're in the last 5 minutes of a tight game, he's not going to be on the court. And he's a guy, especially right now with the injuries that the Lakers have, they don't necessarily need a big body down low. They need a guy who can score because they have problems scoring. If you saw last night and even on Friday night against the Cavs, I mean, had, Colin Sexton been available or had the Orlando Magic not traded away their 4 best players, the Lakers probably lose both of those games because they just can't score right now without AD and LeBron. So
yes, you're over or you're under 1.5 wins.
Yeah, I got screwed by the trade deadline.
But that's good for the Lakers. They needed those 2 wins badly.
Yeah,
to stop the bleeding.
I'll happily pay the $20 I owe Chris Broussard now.
Yeah, I got to say, though, I'm not 100% certain that 35-year-old LaMarcus Aldridge would be on the floor final 5 minutes of the Lakers. Is he an upgrade? Can he defend on the wing? against, I don't know, a Kawhi, Paul George pick and roll better than, say, the Morris twin? I don't know about that. I mean, Kuzma has had his moments. I know he's been a big knock defensively, but he had his moments in the bubble where he was trying really, really hard. LaMarcus Aldridge is 35. I'm not, I can see, I would guess fully healthy Lakers closing lineup is what? Schroeder, KCP, LeBron, AD, and then whoever's got the hot hand out of Kuzma or Morris, perhaps even an Alex Caruso gets a look. I don't know if Horton Tucker's there yet, but I don't see how Aldridge cracks that five.
Well, neither one, Drummond or Aldridge, would crack the final five, I think, for either team that they go to. That's not the situation. The situation is the Lakers just need to tread water for the next couple of weeks while AD and LeBron are out, and they could have used LaMarcus Aldridge pick and pop skills a lot more than they could use a rebounding, rim-running center, because right now they don't have anyone who can create for that rim-running center. That was the issue that he had in Cleveland. Say what you want about the Sexland backcourt. They're not known for their distribution skills. That's not something that works out. And Dennis Schroeder is not a point guard in that sense of the position. He's more of a scoring guard. Kyle Kuzma never turned down a shot that was half open. Alex Caruso doing anything other than screening offensively is a mission. And so. Yeah. They what they needed was scoring temporarily. So that's why I think Aldridge would have been better fit for the Lakers.
Let me wrap up the Lakers portion of this with this. So they get a couple days off before they face the Bucks on Wednesday. I didn't hear anything. I don't know if you did, Rob, about Anthony Davis and what his status is, but I'm assuming he ain't coming back this week. But they get the Bucks Wednesday, and then the longest road stretch of the season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight road games. And it's Sacramento, then the Paperclips, then they fly down to Florida for the Toronto Raptors, and then they stay in Florida for the Heat, then up north to Brooklyn, New York, then back down to Charlotte. And then when they come home, you're like, oh, they're finally home. Okay, they'll probably have LeBron back by then. Well, they sure as hell better, because when they get home, it's Celtics, Jazz. Okay? This stretch will determine whether or not the Lakers end up playing in that play-in tournament to get into the playoffs. Because, play-in game. Rob, I got to be honest. I would not be shocked if they go 1-6 on this road trip. And then have to come home. We'll see if LeBron's back by then. Boston, Utah, that ain't easy. So that's where we are with the Lakers. Andre Drummond, obviously, a nice help. Now let me quickly pour some cold water on the Nets fans who are all geeked about adding Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. So Blake Griffin, hey, we know his history. Once a legend. He's played 3 games with the Nets. 15 minutes, 19 minutes, 20 minutes. My question, how the hell is Blake Griffin going to play any minutes when Kevin Durant is back and they have LaMarcus Aldridge in the fold? I'm sorry, I don't see it. Now let's get to LaMarcus Aldridge, who, oh my gosh, it was funny. I forget what day this popped. It might have been Saturday or, listen, it was a long weekend for us, okay? As soon as the news popped, it was like, oh, look at all these former All-Stars. They've got 41 All-Star or whatever the number is. Like, folks, LaMarcus Aldridge is 35 years old. 35. He's jacking threes this year because, hey, you're old. You want to stick around in the league? I mean, that's what you do. And it's not like he's hitting them at a great clip, 36% with the Spurs this year. I don't really know what LaMarcus Aldridge can bring the Nets, because when I look at that team, we know Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are not letting DeAndre Jordan go to the bench. He's going to be their starting center because he's their friend and they got him there, okay? We know Joe Harris is starting. And I guess the other starter, that would be Joe Harris is the 5th starter. So then the question is, well, who's the first guy off the bench? And I think there is a little Lakers thing going on here where it's like, well, some games for the Lakers, it's a Morris, the other a Caruso, maybe a Wes Matthews, maybe Montrezl Harrell. Like you just don't, it's like a feel thing. And I think Nash, coach of the Nets, is going to go through the same thing. Well, maybe we could really use Bruce Brown here. Maybe that's the guy we need to inject out there. Or maybe we need another shooter. We'll go small. Let's get Landry Shamet out there. Or we're getting slaughtered inside. let's go to Aldridge maybe at center. Or I don't see if it's being Blake Griffin. And frankly, I think Jeff Green is more valuable right now than Aldridge and Blake Griffin. And then they got this young kid, Nicholas Claxton, who's 21. And it's like, well, he's going to be more... He's the perfect rim runner for James Harden. That ain't Blake Griffin anymore, although he has 2 dunks this year. Whoop-de-damn-do. I mean, Claxton, we know what he's giving you. Defense inside, some rim protection, and dunks. And he's not going to do anything else or try to do anything else. Jeff Green is playoff battle tested. I can't remember the last big playoff series LaMarcus Aldridge was a part of, but maybe Rob G can tell me. I mean, he was with Portland with Damian Lillard. They won a little bit, and then he got to the Spurs, and they lost in the first round to I think it was the Nuggets. And Blake Griffin, all he does is get hurt in the playoffs. So, I know Andre Drummond for the Lakers. He doesn't have any playoff experience outside of a couple first-round washouts with Detroit. But overall, people are the bottom line is people are overhyping the hell out of these moves the Brooklyn Nets made. Right, Rob? Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. And I feel like, what you said, it resonated in me in such a way that I feel like I may have told you this before we started recording and you just regurgitated it from your own perspective. And that's fine. Because I feel like when we spoke before the pod started, I said, hey, I don't know if I like Aldridge taking minutes from Nick Claxton. And then you're like, who's Nick Claxton?
Well, we talked about Claxton. We talked about Claxton on the pod last week because he popped in a couple games. And again, I'm in a fantasy league with my son. And I'm looking at box scores every night. We're in contention. We're in third place. One night last week, I see this guy Brown from Oklahoma City put up 19 points and 17 rebounds. I'm like, who the hell is that? It's this kid from UCLA, Moses Brown. So then he did it again, and we grabbed him. And I saw Claxton had a monster game recently. And I know who he is. I will be honest. I was taken aback by his picture, his NBA profile pic. If you click on his, his game log and look at him, it's a jarring photo. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to get anybody angry at me for taking a shot at a young kid, Nick Claxton. But, he's a nice guy, Rob G. I hope I wasn't trying to steal your thunder on Nick Claxton.
No, it's okay. You wouldn't be the first talent I work with to use my take on the air. But, no, but with the Aldridge thing, you hit the nail right on the head. I don't understand the reason behind getting Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. Because they, at this point in their career, they do the exact same thing. They're stretch bigs, stretch 4, stretch 5, whatever you want to call it. The problem with that is Jeff Green's already on the roster, and he's more consistent, at least this season, than both of those guys. So you have 3 guys who all do the same thing. What you don't have still is a defensive-minded big man who can switch out on the screens in the playoffs. The only guy on that roster who can do it is the aforementioned Nick Claxton. Yeah. And I understand him being 21, so maybe they want to play him in the postseason.
22 next month.
Whatever. But
he had 16 and 9 against Portland, and then the night before that he had 16 against Washington. Basically, he's dunking everything or laying everything in and hitting it 63% of his shots. Which is, listen, that's all you ask for. That's all you need when you've got 3 Hall of Famers in the starting lineup.
Exactly. And with the Nets, their big 3, and I guess, plus Joe Harris because you can't leave him open. They're so potent, it doesn't really matter some nights who that 5th guy is. The problem, though, is not every game is going to be 135 to 127, 128 to 117. There are going to be games where you're barely cracking 100 in the postseason. It's, 105, 103. And in those situations, especially when you go in the Eastern Conference and you're going through Joel Embiid, who you're going to have to go through him to get to the finals. And if you get to the finals, you are most likely going to have to face Anthony Davis, assuming the Lakers are healthy. You need a defensive-minded big man to go against these guys. You can't have your only pitch be a fastball. You can't be all gas, no brakes. That was the same problem that the 7 seconds or less Steve Nash Suns had and the Mike D'Antoni Houston Rockets. They had one style of play, and that was it. We're either going to beat you like this or we're not going to win at all. And the problem that the Nets have, and I'm not saying that I don't think they're going to be a very good team or they're not going to make it to the finals, because I do think that, but you can't win that way every single time. You can't always impose your will on the other team. There's going to be times where it's going to be grinded out and you're going to have to get stops. There's going to be nights where, for whatever reason, the 3 ball's not falling. You might have a Houston Rockets-esque 27 straight misses. And you're going to need to rely on stopping guys at the rim. You know, in a pick and roll situation, you need your big man to hedge out or at least contain the pick and roll. And DeAndre Jordan's not doing that. Jeff Green's not doing that. Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, they're not doing that. So what exactly is your counter to that? And it seems like their counter is, we're just going to outscore you. We don't care about the other end of the floor. So that's why I'm surprised by that.
They're punting on defense, which I think is an interesting theory. I will just say the offense has been so good this year that this could be the season the defense just does not matter. It doesn't. We're seeing it, listen, not to compare the NBA to the NCAA tournament, but in the NCAA tournament, we're seeing defense does not really matter. It just doesn't. None of the elite, basically of the 8 teams left, and we'll get to it later, better offensive efficient teams are alive than there are defensive efficient teams of the final 8. And it's just, I guess it's a sign of the times. Like, defense doesn't really matter because kids are playing so much basketball. So many kids can create. It's an offensive sport right now. Basketball is becoming that. It's the 3-point revolution, if you will, has been so dominant that offenses are just too good right now. Now, of course, I say that, Loyola was a clunker over the weekend, and we'll get to college basketball in a minute. But I guess just to wrap up on the NBA, Rob, I largely thought that, the Lakers are going to be in trouble. I think everybody would agree with that until LeBron and AD come back. Everybody likes the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon made his debut. They got the victory. The Phoenix Suns are still surging. Utah Jazz are starting to get their groove back. And let me just close out with a quick note, okay? Do you remember Damon Jones, Rob?
Of course.
Former guard, Cleveland Cavs. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think he goes on TV now and whatever. So for whatever reason, he follows me on Twitter. So I saw, former player, he's on TV. I'll follow him back. And he put out some tweet Saturday night that Ty Lue is has to be the leader for Coach of the Year in the NBA. And listen, normally I don't have time. I don't care to engage in this nonsense with people. But Ty Lue or his friend or whoever put this out, but he retweeted and put it on my radar. And I was like, hold up, Ty Lue of the Clippers, Coach of the Year? You mean Ty Lue of the Clippers, who are currently behind Monty Williams' Phoenix Suns and Quinn Snyder's Utah Jazz? That Ty Lue? With 2 of the best 10 players in the league? Largely the same team that was favored to win the championship last year? They have one of the best records in the league? That Ty Lue? He's in the mix for Coach of the Year? I don't know, Rob. I got sucked in. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't take the bait. And it wasn't directed at me. It was just floating it or retweeting or whatever he did to make Ty Lue a thing. And I'm just here to say, Damon Jones followed up when I just totally shit on that entire idea. Bro, what are you talking about? He's like, you have something against Ty Lue. When he was hired, you took shots at him. And I was like, okay. So I shouldn't do this, right? But I think it was Saturday night. I was laying in bed right before I finished watching the games. And I'm like, okay. So I looked it up. Ty Lue, he's his 4th year coaching. First year, he took over for, what's the guy's name? Was it David Blatt in Cleveland, Rob? Do you remember?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
David Blatt.
And he wins the title with LeBron. And then second year, they get swept by the Warriors in the finals. Greatest dynasty in NBA history. Sorry, Celtics. Sorry, Jordan's Bulls. And then the next year, they lose again. But Kyrie was gone and whatever. Okay. Then LeBron leaves. So he gets fired as soon as the next season starts. So Ty Lue then gets hired by the Clippers. How are we to judge Ty Lue as an NBA coach, Rob? I'm not going to say anything to checker your thoughts. I'm just going to ask, how are we supposed to judge Ty Lue as an NBA coach?
Well, he'd have to win in the playoffs for me to judge him as an NBA head coach.
Well, he's already done that. He won a title with LeBron.
Yeah, but, I don't know.
No, I don't know. Tell me. Come on.
Okay. He was not the reason why they won that championship.
Oh, really?
No.
You're not giving Ty Lue credit for winning a chip?
I'm going to give him credit for having one. He has it. I'm not going to say he doesn't have it, but for him to get credit like he was the mastermind behind that team, that would be incorrect. So it took a LeBron, Kyrie, nuclear game 6, I believe it was, where they each had 40 plus points, for that to happen.
Draymond suspension, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's impossible to judge Ty Lue as a head coach given his time with LeBron. Okay? Now, the next job he gets, and I'm not hating on him, this is genius. Great work if you can get it. The next job he gets is with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And Kawhi Leonard is widely viewed as one of the 5 best players in the basketball. Like, how are we supposed to judge that? Okay? I think this is the blueprint. Eric Spoelstra, right? Video coordinator. Didn't have the background that Ty Lue did playing in the league. And Spoelstra wins with LeBron and the Heatles, okay? So then it's like, okay, LeBron's gone. What do we got? And they were like, make the playoffs. I think they lost first round and didn't make the playoffs. And okay, what does Spoelstra have? He went to the finals last year. And I know people are going to say, oh, he's got Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. No. What Spoelstra did last year was incredible. I know he didn't win the title, but give that man some props. That, to me, Rob, I'm impressed. Frank Vogel in Indiana with Paul George had those Pacers, Roy Hibbert, Paul George, David West, going toe-to-toe with LeBron. Now, they never took him down. Frank Vogel then goes to Orlando where, if you win in Orlando, you might as well be one of the greatest coaches of all time, okay? He don't win in Orlando, he's fired. He goes to the Lakers, he's got LeBron, wins. It's kind of tough to judge these coaches, is it not, Rob?
There's certain guys you can tell that they're good coaches, that regardless of who they have out there, that they're going to be successful. I think Eric Spoelstra is a great coach.
Oh, okay. Right. Someone else besides Spoelstra and anyone who's coached LeBron. How about that?
I think that Rick
Let's
Carlisle's
go
Budenholzer.
Carlisle is good. He did win a title, with Dirk?
Yes.
Yeah, he is a good coach.
I think Budenholzer is a very good coach. I think Nick Nurse is a great coach.
Hold on. Budenholzer is a great regular season coach.
That's fine. You got to get there first. And, there's a lot of guys who can't quite get there sometimes.
Doc Rivers.
No.
That was pretty quick.
No. Doc Rivers has benefited greatly from the rosters that he's had.
And we'll wrap up on this random tangent on coaches. Brad Stevens.
His is more of a gray area.
Oh, I can't believe you went.
And here's the reason why.
Wow.
If you have
3 Eastern Conference Finals in the last 4 years, one of them where his best player was Isaiah Thomas, who, by the way, is out the league and was a second-round pick. I think the last guy taken in the second round.
No, okay. That is factually correct. But with him, and this is to steal this from Chris Broussard, there's guys who can drive a Honda very, very well, which with him, if he has C-level guys, D-level guys, he can maximize the heck out of them. He gets them to all buy in wherever. You give him the keys to a Ferrari, which is the upper echelon guys. You give him a Kyrie Irving. You give him now stars, legitimate Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and for whatever reason, he can't work with those guys. He doesn't get the most out of the stars. And that's something that he's actually the antithesis of Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson, you give him the stars, he knows how to work and mold the superstars and get the most out of them. You give him a bunch of bench warmers, he's going to be terrible. And Brad Stevens is the exact opposite of that.
Okay.